Welcome to Crown Chat with Nichelle. Whether you're new to us or returning, we are so glad to have you here where I introduce some of my amazing royal friends. We get to learn about different pageant systems and women that are making such a huge impact in the world. And tonight is no different as I introduce a very, very special guest to you. I'm going to bring her in right now. Hello, Queen. How are you?
Hello, I am great. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. You look amazing, as always.
Thank
Every time I
you.
see you, you look amazing. But
Aw,
tell
you
everyone
too.
at home who you are and your new title.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I am Jayne Black, and I am Mrs. Elemental USA.
Wow. And you were just crowned, right? Recently?
Yes, January 18th.
Wow. Wow. And your pictures were stunning. So tell us a little bit about how you got from, where you were to now, your whole pageant journey and how you landed where you are now.
Oh my goodness. So for me, it's been a 4-year journey. Mrs. Elemental USA, we went through a name change last year. So we used to be Mrs. USA Earth. And that's, when I first entered, believe it or not, I was Mrs. Alabama because the state of Wisconsin was taken that year. And I placed top 15. And immediately I knew I'm going back. And the next year, I got to compete as Mrs. Wisconsin, and then I ended up being Mrs. Eco. And then the following year, I knew again, always like didn't even have to think about it. I'm going back. And the next year, I was honored to be Mrs. Air. And the same thing, I said, I'm going back. And, you never know. But yeah, so I was so excited. I don't think it's really even quite hit me because it's been a very long journey, but it's been so rewarding and in every single way. So yeah, it's exciting.
Amazing. Amazing. So it was a 4-year journey to get to your current title. Did you start pageants? I mean, were you a toddlers and tiaras kind of girl, or did
Oh,
you start later, or how'd you start?
I never was. I didn't do pageants until I was a Mrs. So, but I grew up probably like a lot of people watching Miss America
Mhm.
and walking around with a towel on my head, pretending I had long hair and, you know, had a love for them, but never thought I will compete in them. And one day I was just like, I want to do something that's really outside the box. I want to grow. I actually had just been diagnosed as an adult with dyslexia. So I really wanted to work on my speaking skills. I was really passionate about doing work in my community. And so for me, those were the reasons. It was about personal growth and what I could do in my community and my state. And those reasons have never changed. So I've been in the industry for years. I've done several systems. But when I found this system, I was actually introduced to it by a former title holder, Meredith Pope. And I just thought, I can't believe this because the mission resonated with my mission. And I thought, how powerful would that be, to be able to promote what I care about, which is, taking care of our earth and helping climate change and all of the issues that we have. How powerful would that be to be able to do that and then merge it with this passion I had of pageantry?
Wonderful. I think that's so important when people are looking for a system to make sure that it does resonate with your values and with your passions. So, with that, what are the areas of good?
So we have its iconic impact service project. And I don't want to go into length about that, but it's really cool. It's where every delegate does a service project in her community that has to do with helping our earth. So I love that aspect. We have charitable giving, we have photogenic, we have interview, which is weighted the most heavily. We have activewear, and we have evening gown. So those are all our competitions. We also do an intro video, which I really love. I think we all love it because it's a time to kind of like, this is who I am, get to know me. But it's not judged. That is just something that we do. And I think it's cool because it's another way to promote the work that you do.
Sure, sure. Now that's a lot of areas of competition, right? So, how many days is the pageant?
So this is the cool part. We go step by step. And it's not burdensome and hopefully not stressful for anyone because we take each element, at a time. So it's not all merged together. So for instance, our iconic service projects are due, I believe it was in October. I may have gotten that wrong. I'm not sure, but I believe it is. So, so that's already done before we go to the pageant. Our intro videos are already done. Our judging is via Zoom in December. So that is already done. So much is already done. Photogenics already done. And so what we have left when we get there is we're doing fitness and we're doing evening gown. And so it makes it very easy. And like I said, hopefully the whole key is for it not to be stressful. And which with each element of the competition, it's an opportunity to grow too and kind of hone in what you're really doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that it's not, I mean, when you said all of those things, I'm like, is she there? So can you tell us a little bit about your service impact project?
Yeah, my initiative is called Clean Air in Green Schools. It's really a collaborative effort of all the work I do as the founder of Green Schools Rock, which is a free and inclusive program. I support schools to take sustainable actions, and then I train youth in those schools to be leaders in their schools and their communities. And it also combines the work I do as the Wisconsin field organizer for Moms Clean Air Force. It's a national organization. Parents, families, caregivers, we're all united to fight air pollution and our changing climate. So it's really a merge of those two things.
That's amazing. So are you an educator by trade? I mean, you're this glamour girl, but what do you do by day?
So I am a former pre-K teacher, actually. I love children so much, but I actually left that because Green Schools Rock has grown so much. And so now when I'm working with kids, I'm teaching them about climate, which is a win-win for everyone. So, but yeah, and I work for Moms Clean Air Force. It's primarily virtually, unless we're in the community, in the state, or traveling, going to Capitol Hill or, in different places for climate conferences and things like that.
That's wonderful. I love
Yeah.
that. So where did your passion grow, your excitement for impacting our environment and the element and all of that?
I know for every person, I think it's different. Mine is kind of twofold. Being that I grew up with dyslexia as a kid and not knowing I had it, it was, my self-esteem was very low. I felt very invisible, not understood. And we lived right next to a woods. And we did spend a lot of time in nature. My mom was really good about that. And I found nature for me, I felt seen. I felt heard. It's like, it seems silly, but the wind in your hair, the sun on your face, it validates, like you're here. I see you. And that meant a lot to me as a child. So I, unfortunately, a lot of my passion for teaching kids about climate comes from the fact that I didn't feel like I was really taught about it growing up or in school. What happened was my daughter was diagnosed several years ago with multiple sclerosis. And we found out that air pollution is a contributing factor to her disease and her relapse episodes.
Wow.
And her life is very different than ours. I mean, she has to wear a mask. She has to carry a air monitor. She has to be extremely cautious, and she has to think about air pollution and climate change all the time. And I thought, with my love for our earth and just hearing her and her passion, I thought I have to do something. And that's really how Green Schools Rock came to be, because she started talking to me about, Mom, I'm really concerned about students in school and air quality, because it's not just outdoor, it's indoor too. And that's how Green Schools Rock started. And combining that, with, the pageant at the time, I was just doing what I felt like I needed to do. And it has just every year grown so much to the point that, I spearheaded a bill here in Wisconsin. The Moms Clean Air Force saw me on the news. They called me up. They hired me. So these journeys that we go on as contestants, as delegates, what's so phenomenal is you never know where that's going to lead you. And, in my case, this pageant's really been the catalyst for all of the things that have really happened in my life.
That's amazing. And I love your statement of, we never know where this will lead you, because it begins, you think, as walking across the stage or doing whatever, but then building on that. And especially when you're so passionate about it, like you are, look at what it's done. So I'm so impressed with you. You're just, wow. And that you took something that was so personal with your daughter and expanded that in a way that's impacting the world is what this is all about, right?
It really is. And that's a lot of what this system stands for. It's about inspiring, that change. Each one of us are ambassadors for Iconic USA. It's the official nonprofit of Mrs. Elemental USA, and it stands for inspiring change and overcoming nature's issues collectively. And, so when I say, this is authentically, genuinely what I live and breathe, I truly mean that. And I think it's so empowering for each one of us to have that mission in our life, no matter if that relates to climate or if it relates to something else as well.
That's amazing. I appreciate too, you mentioned, because one of my passion projects is working with youth, young girls, especially who have self-esteem and confidence issues. You mentioned that growing up, that was one of your areas of improvement or progression. So how did you step into this amazing woman that you are now from this young lady?
A lot of it was pageants. It really was. I can remember my first pageant. I was so nervous. And in interview, I didn't want to answer the questions because being dyslexic, you always think, I'm going to say the word wrong, which I still do, but I don't care anymore. I'm just like, I am so sorry, and I'll just say it again.
Sure.
But I truly, and that was the feedback I got too, is, oh, she's just wonderful. But she's so shy. And I thought, okay, I'm going to overcome this, So every time I did a pageant, I got stronger. And that has a lot to do too with the sisterhood. You're meeting people, they're being vulnerable, they're sharing. You find out everybody's got something, that they're working on. And I just finally arrived at this place where I said, the difference that I want to make is bigger than any fear that I have. So bring it on. Ask me a question, I might not know the answer to. And I stumbled. And every time, I didn't say, get the crown. I just got back up and I kept going. I've really found, even in my professional life, there has not been the opportunities to grow the way that I have as a person, than the way pageantry has given that to me. So I have a real love and respect for it.
That's good. I love that. And for people that think it's just the crown and the dress, there's so much more that happens. There's a sisterhood, like you said, and then there's that personal growth that happens, and you just fly with it. It's wings.
Yeah, there's so much more, because even if you do get the crown, for instance, every journey that I've had, there's been so many things that have come from it. It's really about the journey. Getting the crown is amazing. To achieve a goal, when we set goals as women, I mean, it's empowering. It's wonderful. But the journey is very powerful too.
That's beautiful. Speaking of journeys, how can our viewers and listeners follow your journey and get involved in what you're doing?
Well, first of all, like our Facebook page if you haven't already, Mrs. Elemental USA. Go to Instagram, same thing, like us, Mrs. Elemental USA. Also, what's really unique about our system is that we have elemental title holders. And I was fortunate, like I said before, to be Mrs. Eco and Air. Each one of them has a Facebook page. Each one of them is on Instagram. And each one of them has a certain role that they fulfill during their year. So follow Air, Water, Fire, Eco, because they're doing phenomenal things too.
That's amazing. Let's say, because I'm from Indiana, is there a Mrs. Indiana Fire and a Mrs. Texas Fire, or are there just that one group of national title holders?
Right. So the elementals, so that's your top 5. And with the Mrs. Elemental USA system, there's not a first, second, third, or fourth. They're all equally ranked. And then, it's kind of according to what they spoke about in their interview, what their passion is. And they're, each one fits perfectly into the element. But other than that, then everybody else is a state title holder, and they all have pages and Instagrams and Facebooks as well.
Wonderful. And I will share your links in our show notes so that everybody can follow. So any final words of wisdom or tips or advice to our viewers, listeners, maybe people that are thinking about competing in a pageant, but feeling that they're not good enough, or people that are like, hey, I've never heard of that, but I'm passionate about, helping with the environment, anything for those folks?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're good enough. You are enough. And we need to know that, right? And just stay in your lane, do your thing, be authentic and genuine. And that just means do what's important to you and just do the best you can at it, because there's someone out there that needs to hear from you. They need to be inspired by you. And I would say, if you're thinking about doing a pageant, all I can tell you is you're going to grow personally. You will grow professionally. I've actually gotten jobs because of what I've learned in pageants. And pick a system that resonates with what's important to you. And, Mrs. Elemental USA, we are just trying to help our Mother Earth. We're trying to inspire that change, and it's needed so greatly. But that's something that each one of us has in common, is the earth. So it doesn't have to be what I'm doing. It can be completely different, but yet so needed. So just remember that and stay in your lane. And I'll give you advice that I give myself: never give up, because you could be giving up just right before something amazing is going to happen.
That's very good. Never give up. Because I think so many people, you mentioned your journey of, not quite there, not quite there. And then finally, this was your year. So many people just, give up, and it may not have been their time yet. So.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Like what you said, timing is everything. And at the time, if we had perfect clarity, we would see that. But that was something I really, really held on to. I was like, timing, that is so underrated. So set other goals besides winning, and accomplish those. So every time I got to the end of my year, I was like, wow, I was able to do this. I was able to create change here. That's what it's about.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's a perfect show closer right there. My goodness, that's our quote. I can't thank you enough for, agreeing to be on my show and sharing a little bit of you with us. We're going to put your links in so everybody can follow your journey. I can't wait to see what you do this year. Congratulations on your all the pictures I saw. I was like, oh my gosh, this woman's impacting the world. I got to get her on. So all the things that you're doing and just following you has been amazing. And I will continue to follow, but I can't thank you enough for being on tonight. Everyone that's watching, please tune in. Please follow her journey. Oh my goodness. And remember, never dull your sparkle, because someone else can't handle your shine. Thanks for tuning in to Crown Chat. We'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.